Could you take us through just what happens from the moment you eat or drink food, and just walk us through what happens as it goes from your mouth all the way down and just process and out, and what is the ideal thing that should be happening?
Absolutely. So digestion actually starts in the mouth. Digestion starts before anything even enters your body. It starts when you look at food, when you smell food, when you think about food with that salivary process, right? So you salivate, the idea like, oh, I'm salivating at the idea of, the kale salad, whatever it is, maybe not the kale salad. And so you start to release salivary enzymes, amylase and other enzymes from your salivary glands into your mouth, so that the minute the food hits the mouth, it's starting to get broken down. Most of that breaking down happens lower down, but it does happen a little bit in the mouth. Then so the mouth is part of the digestive tract. Then you have the long tubular structure, the esophagus. And the focus of the esophagus is just to get stuff into the stomach primarily. And that sort of works by these contractions. It gets into the stomach. In the stomach, the food gets ground up into small particles called chyme. So there's that sort of, and mastication, chewing helps to break up the food too, right. But it gets churned into small particles so that they can be more easily digested.
And how does that happen in the stomach? Is it just the acids?
Muscular contractions. And there is something called the gastric pacemaker, which is a bundle of nerves right at the top of the stomach. And the gastric pacemaker decides how quickly the stomach is going to contract based on what's in the food. So for example, if you are eating food with a high fat content, the gastric pacemaker says, whoa, we've got fat on board. This is complicated to digest compared to carbohydrates. We're going to need more time. And it slows down the contractions, which is why if you eat a high fat meal, you feel full, even with a lower volume, right? Like a little bit of nuts, avocado, pate, whatever it is, higher fat content in the food, you feel more sated. And that's because the stomach slows down the emptying. So remember, the GI tract, it's muscle. It's not skeletal muscle like your bicep. It's smooth muscle. So it's not under the same voluntary control that, where
it sounds like it's got a job where it's actually always going.
Absolutely. It's always going. And it's going more during the day because that muscular contraction works with the circadian rhythm, the light-dark cycle. So once it gets dark, there's not a lot of contraction. And unfortunately, that's when so many of us are dumping in the majority of our food, when the stomach is essentially asleep, when it's just not as active. So we got to think about that too, not just what we eat, the volume, the fat composition, but when we're eating it. If you have a cheeseburger at 1 o'clock in the afternoon, you're going to tolerate that very differently from having a cheeseburger at 10 o'clock at night.
It's true.
Because just things aren't moving. So things get churned up. Enzyme release, you get gastrin, one of the main hormones for the stomach, one of the main digestive enzymes for the stomach being released. The food starts to get broken down, and then it shoots through the stomach into the first part of the small intestine, the duodenum.
How long does food stay in your stomach?
Upper limit of normal is about 90 minutes for emptying, but it depends.
Wait, that's it?
Well, it depends a lot on what the composition is. So liquid is going to go through faster. Remember, high fat is going to take longer. Protein is going to take longer than carbohydrate. It depends also on what's going on downstream. Because even though they may be separated by, 20 feet, if you have a colon that's full of stool, and I find this fascinating, you have a colon that's full of stool,
right? And
you're eating. If your colon is full, it's going to send a message to the stomach saying, whoa, slow down. We're still full down here. So we know about the gastrocolic reflex, which is a message the stomach sends to the colon. And that's why most people have a bowel movement in the morning, because the first thing they put in their stomach, it sends a hormonal message to the colon saying, okay, food's coming in, time to clear out. And then the colon wakes up and says, okay, time to release things. And that's why usually in the morning, whether it's water, coffee, lemon juice, oatmeal, whatever it is, that's usually, and the stomach anticipates it. So even before you eat, it's like, oh, I know what's going to happen. We got to make room. That's the gastrocolic reflex. But there's a reverse of that, the cologastric reflex, when the colon's full. And that's why when people are constipated, often they'll tell you, I'm not hungry. I don't have an appetite. Or I'm a little nauseated when I eat. And it's because it's their full colon trying to prevent more stuff from coming down. So all these different parts of the GI tract communicate with each other.
It's absolutely fascinating.
It's really fascinating.
So it's sort of like having a clogged toilet. Like not like you go to try to flush and the toilet's like, no. We're not taking anything else until this clears out.
I love that. I had not thought about that, but it is like a clogged toilet.
And so the matter, though, that then drops in to the top part of the intestine is that green liquid matter, which I wasn't even, I was thinking like the poop is actually somehow in your stomach. And now it's like traveling a long distance.
And even, so between the stomach and the colon, we have the small intestine, and that has three parts: duodenum, jejunum, and ileum. And I remembered it in medical school as dogs jump in, DJI, in case you want to remember it. We have all these crazy acronyms. But so you have the duodenum, which is the first part right after the stomach. And that's where the bile gets released. So the bile is made in the liver, it's stored in the gallbladder, and then it gets released into the duodenum. And the purpose of bile is primarily to help absorb fats. It emulsifies them. It's like dishwashing liquid. You know, you're trying to wash a greasy plate with just water, and the grease isn't coming off. And then you put a little detergent on it, dishwashing liquid, and now super clean. You can wipe all the grease off. That's what bile does for getting the fats absorbed through the gut lining.
Wow.
Emulsifies them, transports them through. And the bile also turns the products of digestion green. And so it's still liquid. And so in the small intestine, in the duodenum, jejunum, and ileum, different things are absorbed. Most of the things are absorbed in the duodenum. The fat-soluble vitamins, A, D, E, and K, the iron, that's all absorbed upstream. The calcium, not a lot happens in the jejunum, and then a few things in the ileum. B12 gets reabsorbed there. So the small intestine is the absorptive part.
How do you know, that's so interesting because so many of us are like, trying to pay attention to D or fish oil or B and, supplementing if we're not getting it naturally in the foods that we're eating. How do you know if it's even dissolving at the right part of the digestive process?
Well, the different parts of the GI tract have a specialized epithelium. The lining is designed to absorb different things. So for example, and it's gorgeous. When I could show you endoscopic videos, I mean, you're like, this is beautiful. When
what
you
does it
see
look
the
like?
villi, well, in the small intestine, you have these villi, these finger-like projections. And then there are these sort of wave-like motion. I mean, it looks like coral. Looks like beautiful coral.
Oh, like in the ocean?
In the ocean.
Yeah.
Without
you
the
have
stool.
a beautiful accent. So I was like, it looks like Carl. I've got like this like, Carl who?
Who's Carl? Lagerfield?
Amazing. So it looks like the coral in the ocean. It's amazing.
Villi are just, and they have these wave-like movements. And the reason you have these villi, these finger-like projections sticking up, is so that things can be absorbed. It increases the surface area, versus flat. When you have villi, now you have all this extra area for absorption. So stomach is mechanical, some enzyme secretion, grinding. Small intestine is villi and absorption. And then colon is water reabsorption and bacterial fermentation.
Wow.
And those are...
You know what I love about you, Dr. Robin? And I know as you're sitting here listening to her, it is so captivating. And what comes through is your passion for everything that you do. And you have this extraordinary way of just describing the functioning of our bodies. And it's making me stop and think what a shame it is that so many of us spend the majority of our life hating on ourselves and complaining about the bloating and complaining about the constipation. And you literally just described in a breathtaking way the natural, intelligent design of your body and how it is magically designed to do all these things for you, from the moment that you look at food to how it moves through your system to the way it is so efficient in taking what it needs and breaking down what it doesn't and then recycling the moisture so that it can keep you alive and healthy. And I'm so excited now that I kind of understand that the default for all of us is this beautiful system that is designed to work and to take care of us and to make us feel energized and to make us feel the fuel and the nutrients from our food. And I know that what we're going to get today from you is simple things that we can do to activate the intelligent design within us.
I could not have put it better. And I love the point that you made. I'm always telling people, your gut has your back. The default setting is for it to function well. And the reason it's not functioning well is not because we need the right supplement. It's because the input is off. We're usually doing something that's messing it up, whether it's the wrong food, a medication that's slowing it down, we're blocking the stomach acid. So rather than looking for this sort of magic potion that's going to fix it, we should be taking a careful look at our diet, in our medicine cabinet, our habits and lifestyles, the environment, at what's messing it up. There was an incredible article that came into my medical feed last week. And when I looked at the author, I was like, that's an unusual name. I think I know her. Mary Margaret. She went to medical school with me, Columbia. We graduated in 1991, a lifetime ago, and she's doing incredible work here in Boston. I think she's either at the Brigham or MGH, but she was a lead author in this article, and it was so cool seeing her name there. But the article talked about how climate change is increasing disease. And one of the things they talked about are these epithelial barriers, and they talked about the gut lining, the lining of the airways, and the skin. These are all barriers that are designed to protect us from the environment. Our skin is in contact with the environment. Our gut is in contact with the environment. Because when you eat something, it's not in your body. It's in this 30-foot long tunnel that runs from our mouth to our anus. And for things to get from the gut into the body, they've got to get reabsorbed, whether it's water or absorbed in the case of nutrients, through the lining. And the lining is selective. It doesn't just let any and all nutrients through. The lining makes sure that food particles are fully broken down so they can get absorbed through. And so she talked in this article about how pollution as a result of climate change is breaking down these epithelial barriers. So we're seeing more skin conditions. I mean, everybody's got eczema, psoriasis, something going on. Everybody's got gut problems. People have airway disease, bronchiectasis, asthma, etc. And these things aren't just falling from the sky. I mean, there are reasons why they're happening. But one of the things that I really want people to know and to think about, I want everybody to just take a look down at where their gut is. Where is your gut? It's in the center of your body. It is literally the engine for your entire body. It feeds your brain and your kidneys and your lungs and your immune system. So you've got to take care of your engine. If you don't take care of your engine, the rest of your car is going to break down. It's not going to function well. And as you said, Mel, it's the default setting for it to function well. But, even a Maserati, sometimes with enough miles on it, might, need a little tune-up here and there. But we've got to take care of our engine. I am so curious about your poop.
Oh, what do you want to know about my poop?
I think I have a feeling that you have wonderful poos.
You really want to know?
Yes, I really want to know.